Sorry for my absence here on the channel. I decided to take a little bit of time off from posting videos. You may know that I lost my dad in December, and this was a very difficult and tumultuous time, and resultantly I didn't really have enough creative juice and energy to put into the channel. Well, in fact, I did make one or two videos, but by the time I edited them down and had a look at them, I thought, you know, my heart wasn't in it, and I decided to give it a little break. I went on a short vacation to India, which was nice, and I was able to kind of regroup and come back, and so I'm going to be posting with some more regularity. And today I wanted to talk about something that is somewhat related. And the idea that I wanted to share with you today is connected to the idea or the notion of fate and fateful events in contrast to what we might consider ordinary crossed conditions. And crossed conditions is something that as a root worker, a professional magician, someone who works with clients magically, I deal with a lot. Clients come to me experiencing obstacles, problems, jinxes, curses, crossed conditions in various forms. And they're hoping to find solutions for these things. And often there is an underlying spiritual cause for this kind of problem, where your life isn't moving forward, where you're experiencing blockages in every area or in one particular area. For example, that might be as a result of some malefic spell work that was done against you by an enemy. That's often the conclusion that people will leap to first. But there are other things that can cause this. There are crossed conditions that come about due to contaminating influences, hanging around in the wrong places. You might pick up a spirit or an energy or an influence that attaches it to yourself and begins disrupting you in some way. And then, of course, there's the evil eye, which is kind of a category of its own. Certain individuals have the ability to kind of influence you in a negative way with thoughts of spite, and this is often considered to transmit through the gaze. So that's another classical explanation. And then, of course, there is causing problems for yourself magically. This is something that I see a lot, actually, people who are playing around with spell work and inadvertently screw themselves over with their own spell work by doing the wrong kind of thing or experimenting in a not so intelligent way, and this often can cause problems for the practitioner, and this can be quite a good learning experience, but certainly can be a source for obstacles and problems in your life of a magical sort, right? And then lastly, the one that is perhaps the least popular, this diagnosis I find is the least well received with clients in a reading when they're coming to me with a problem. And that is when it's clear that what they are experiencing, the calamity that has befallen them, the problem that they're dealing with, is in fact a result of fate. What you might call karma, if you want to use an Eastern concept, which to my way of thinking is not entirely unrelated to the notion of fate. Both historically, if you sort of like dig down into the idea around fate or destiny, which is a more hopeful version of the notion of fate, but certainly karma is another way of looking at this concept, which is to say, when we're speaking about fate, things that are cosmically predestined, things that you might call lessons or experiences that you unfortunately have to go through in this life, and they are basic unit of the human condition. They are an untimely death of a relative, for example, breakup of a marriage, loss of a job. You know, these things happen to everyone, and they're not always the result of some malign spell work or spiritual influence. Sometimes this is purely the result of fate. And there is something quite consoling in this idea, because to my way of thinking, we can at least find some serenity in knowing that A, this is part of the human condition, and B, to some extent, it's not our fault. It's happening on a larger scale. It's a cosmic event, you could say, that is having to do with the greater functioning of the universe and part of the human condition. And so we have to do our best to accept it. We have to do our best to work with it. And there, of course, are things that we can do, magical remedies that we can do to soften these kinds of events, to make the best of them. We can work with them in a philosophical way by seeing them as growth opportunities and learning opportunities, and understanding that it's part of the journey that we take as human beings on Earth. And then, of course, lastly, another for me encouraging idea about the notion of fate is it can, if it's correctly assessed, if the reader is able to look at this with some clarity and not assume some other kind of malign thing, but can be sober enough to say, well, listen, this is just, life happening to you. And there's a great relief in that, because if we are consumed with a paranoia that we're being magically attacked, or that we've got spirit attachments and these kinds of things, and we just can't get rid of these things, that can be absolutely crazy making. It is a real source of mental health distress, in my opinion. And I see a lot of clients who come to me in a state of distress because their mental health has been destroyed by preoccupation around witchcraft, around evil spirit attachments, evil eye, jinxes, all these things. Even though they are real, sometimes bad things just happen to us, and there is no specifically malign intent behind these things. You could say that they're part of our group, they're necessary for our growth as human beings. If we lived in a universe that was free from these kinds of calamities, these kinds of challenges, we might not be able to work out our destiny. We would never be able to grow and develop as human beings. And hopefully with a bit of magic, with some good divination, we can soften the blows of fate, we can work with it, we can make the best of a difficult situation, and in fact mine it for the gold that it can give us, the growth in our character that it can give us, the serenity that it can give us to face our destiny with maturity and insight, knowing that, we are adults, we can walk forward in a sober, intelligent way and deal with this constructively. So there's a thought for you. Have you ever had this issue where you were unsure if what you were suffering with was a spiritual problem that has some sort of malign cause, whether it is witchcraft or something similar, or just plain old life happening? I know I have. Thanks for watching, and remember to like and to subscribe. I'll be back with more videos soon, hopefully, and all the best to you.